Now, at the last lesson, we looked at finding the slope and y-intercept of a line given an equation in standard form. In this lesson, what we're going to look at is writing an equation that's not in standard form, And so recall that standard form of the equation of a line is ax plus by plus c equals 0, where a and b and c are integers, and a has to be a positive integer, if you recall. So let's take a look at an example, and we're given the equation y equals 1/3 x plus 5. And you can recognize that this is in y equals mx plus b form. This line with slope 1/3 and a y-intercept of 5. And we're asked to rearrange this to put it into standard form. And so the first thing we have to do is multiply both sides by 3. And when we multiply y by 3, we have to multiply everything else in the equation. So we have to multiply the 1/3 x by 3 and the 5 by 3 as well. And after we do that, we simplify. So 3 times y is 3y. 3 times 1/3 is just 1. And 3 times 5 is 15. So our next line is 3y equals x plus 15. So now we have to get rid of the y term from the one side of the equation. So we're going to subtract 3y from both sides. And we get 3y minus 3y, which is 0. We're going to switch the equation around, and we get x minus 3y plus 15 equals 0. And this is in standard equation. A here is 1, b here is -3, and c is 15. So this equation is y equals 1/3 x plus 5 in standard form is x minus 3y plus 15 equals 0. So look at another example, and in this case, we're given the equation y equals -2/5x minus 9. And what we're going to do first here is we have to get rid of the fraction. Instead of dealing with the fractions later on, we're going to deal with them right away. So the way we get rid of the fraction here is to multiply always by the lowest common denominator. There's only one denominator here, so we're going to multiply everything in here by 5. So we multiply 5 times y, 5 times -2/5, and 5 times 9. And when we simplify, 5 times y is just 5y. The 5's here cancel out, and we're left with -2x. And then minus 5 times 9 is 45. And so that's our next line. And once again, 5's cancel out, and they just become, 5 goes into itself once, and into it 5 once. So we're just left with -2x. Next thing we have to do is subtract the 5y from both sides to get y on one side of the equation, all the terms on one side of the equation. And so when we subtract 5y from both sides, we end up with rearranged. So we just moved left side over to the right and vice versa. So we have -2x minus 5y minus 45 equals 0. The problem here is this integer, the value of a, is negative. And remember that a has to be a positive integer. So we have to get rid of the negative sign. And the only way we can do that is by dividing everything in our equation, both sides of our equation, by -1. So when we do that, you'll note that all the signs change, and we end up with 2x. So we had -2x, now it becomes positive 2x. -5y becomes positive 5y. -45 becomes positive 45, and 0 divided by anything is just 0. And so now our equation is in standard form. So next we'll move on to another example, and what we're going to do here is multiply everything by the lowest common denominator. And here, our lowest common denominator of 4 and 2 is 4. So we're going to multiply everything by 4. And when we do that, we end up with 4 times 1/4 y. The 4's are going to cancel out here. And over here, 4 times 5/2, we're going to, 2 goes into itself once and into 4 2 times, so it's going to be 2 times 5x. So over here, this is going to simplify to be y. And this, as I said before, 2 goes into itself once and into 4 2 times. So this is 2 times 5 is 10. And then we just multiply the 1 by 4 as well. Don't forget to do that. So it's -4. And so now all we have to do is subtract y from both sides, and we end up then with 10x minus y minus 4 equals 0. And so now our equation is in standard form. And looking at one last example, here's one that's quite complex. And what we're going to do is realize that we've got three different denominators. So what we're going to do is multiply by the lowest common denominator of 2, 4, and 3, which is 12. So we're going to multiply everything in here by 12, each term by 12. And so when we do this, realize that we're going to end up with things canceling out. And I'll show you the next line and just explain where I got the numbers from. So 2 goes into itself one time and into 12 6 times. So we end up with 6 times, and remember the 2 is canceled out, so it's 2 times negative 1y, which is just negative y. And 3 goes into itself once and into 12 3 times. So we end up with 3 times, and remember the 4 is canceled out, so 3 times negative 3, and then x, so negative 3x. And here we have 3 goes into itself once and into 12 4 times. So we end up with 4 times 7, because remember the 3 is canceled out. And so now we multiply everything here to simplify, and we end up with negative 6y minus equals negative 9x minus 28. All right, and so now what we have to do is add 6y to both sides to get rid of the 6y term from the left-hand side. And so when we do that, this side simplifies to be 0, so we're going to switch that over to the right-hand side, and we end up with 9x plus 6y minus 28 equals 0. So what we're going to do now is, remember, a has to be a positive integer, and it's negative 9. So what we have to do is divide everything by negative 1. And so when we do that, remember all the signs are going to change. So the negatives become positives and the positives become negatives. So we end up with 9x minus 6y plus 28 equals 0. And that's our equation in standard form.